Hey, you joined another episode of the Frank Figliuzzi Show. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm already smiling because this show's a little different. We're going to talk about comedy and satire in the age of Trump. And who better to do it with at this moment in time than Maz Jobrani, who was actually born in Tehran, Iran, raised and educated in the United States, out in California, attended UC Berkeley, was actually headed toward a PhD when he decided to take another turn and be a comedian. And if you haven't seen Maz's work, whether it's on Netflix or in person when he's on tour, I have, and all of the above, and he never fails to make me laugh. And we're going to be asking some hard questions from a funny man today about authoritarianism, the role of comedy and satire, whether Trump can kill comedy, whether we can still laugh at ourselves and each other. So, without further ado, let's bring in Maz Jobrani.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
I'm great, Maz, and I'm just really happy to have you. And I figure I was saying to my wife, look, this is going to be a lighter topic today I'm doing. And then I realized, well, it is and it isn't. We're in need of your services and your colleagues' services these days. And I wanted to first ask you to tell us a little bit about your personal journey, because I think it's compelling. And while we overuse the word unique, in the comedy world, yeah, you are kind of unique. Tell us how you got here.
Well, before I do that, in the intro, you said, can Trump kill comedy? Well, I'm here to tell you he killed comedy, and he continues to kill comedy. It's, from day one, when he won the presidency, first time, where he said he's not going to go to the correspondence dinner the first time. And that was a sign that we are in a bad place, because I used to do a joke about, I've toured all over the world. I used to do a joke about how when you go to the Middle East, they'll tell you, talk about whatever you want, but no sex, no religion, no politics. So you're like, well, then hello and goodbye, or salam alaikum. And it was the first time that I saw an American president, American leader, acting like a Middle Eastern dictator. And that was a bad sign. And we've gone downhill since. And to the point where, you know what the problem was? The first time around, we were all making fun of him. I do a joke in my Netflix special where I go, when he first started running, we were all like, ha, 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 laughing at him. And then as he kept winning and winning, this is the first time we were all like, ha, ha, ha. It just kept getting, we're like, how is he winning still? And for me, it felt like, at least the first time, it felt like he was trying to lose. He would say crazier and crazier things, but people kept pushing him up and pushing him up. And so we're in this world now where we're seeing Stephen Colbert be canceled. I never thought that would be a thing. Jimmy Kimmel get canceled and then come back, thank God. So, yeah, he has killed comedy. And the unfortunate thing is that it's not even him. The people that are allowing him to do so, the people that are, going along with it, which is, a lot of billionaires now. You got Ellison and his son. And then back to what you asked. The question is, I was born in Iran, grew up in America. To your point, I got a degree in political science and Italian from Cal. And then I started a PhD program at UCLA to become a political scientist, but I dropped out the first quarter. So I got the P and not the HD. I got out quick. And then from there, I just pursued my lifelong dream of being a comedian. I've been doing it now for 28 years. I'm getting old, and I love it. I still love it. I think I'll do it, forever and ever, because for comedians, what's great is, we get to see something and then make fun of it that night. And the truth is, this guy gives you material. You don't have to even come up with a joke. It's just like the fact that he was calling Armenia Albania and Azerbaijan Azerbaijan, and I kept watching. I'm like, nobody's correcting him. He keeps doing it.
Yeah, there's a fear factor obviously in place for those around him that feel like they cannot correct him.
Yeah, it's just ludicrous. It's like I would say, like, can't somebody just take him to the side and be like, "Sir, you're amazing. I love you. You're the best person that's ever. You're like Jesus." However, sir, it's not Albania. It's Armenia, and it's not Azerbaijan. It's Azerbaijan. Just saying. Just saying. You
Yeah.
know what I was texting with someone today. The problem is, to your point, no one wants to correct him. Even his own kids don't have the spine to go up and talk to him. At least Ronald Reagan Jr. was able to go against his father. But these kids, they're all, they're all in line, and here we are.
Yeah, I want to. So many things that you've already said that we can unpack. Just as a side note, I hope no one corrects him. I love the fact that he reveals his ignorance every single day, and if no one's going to stop him, have at it and go ahead and make huge mistakes about where you are and what country you're addressing. But I want to, let's start. The first thing you said was Trump killed comedy, and flesh that out for me. You mentioned the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which, by the way, is scheduled again soon. And who knows what he's going to unleash at that thing. But what does it mean when you say that he killed comedy? What are the constraints, if any? What are you feeling personally, professionally? What do you see happening in the industry?
Well, even the Correspondents' Dinner, they don't have a comedian. They got a mentalist, right? I mean, they talk about, not having any risk. I mean, the whole point of the Correspondents' Dinner is to make fun of the people there, make fun of the president. I mean, even George W. Bush went along with it, even though he had like an impersonator come out and kind of listen. If you have half of I don't know if half humility, like if your ego isn't that big, you'd be like, all right, you know what? Let's take some jabs at me, and then take jabs at other people, and I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna have the best writers write me jokes. I'm gonna take jabs at everybody. He's just his ego's too big. He has zero sense of humor.
Yeah.
He and you were saying that those around him don't tell him. I mean, it's a shame that he has created this bubble, and there's nobody that, like, we all know the most powerful people in the world have friends from back in the day, and that friend might make fun of his balls a little bit. I mean, everyone's had that, and this guy seems to not have that, and it's a shame. You know what? It's actually sad. It's sad because he's got nobody that loves him enough to be like, hey, Donald, how about, so he doesn't have that. And
the ability for him to step out of himself and observe himself and critique himself seems not there. And for those saying, Frank, where's the national security part of this? Well, we're getting there, but it's all part of our security, because our adversaries and even our allies have, rest assured, assessed him. Intelligence services have teams of psychologists and psychiatrists to assess foreign leaders. So rest assured, he's been assessed. And part of that assessment would be, I would imagine, that the guy literally cannot take a joke. You mentioned his ego. And so the way to win him over, if at all, is to constantly stroke that ego, never critique, always praise. But that affects our place in the world when everyone is stroking him but laughing behind his back. It affects the stature of the United States. Really
and Frank, one of the things that you said earlier, where you said, let him say these stupid things that are funny. The problem is you and I catch it and we go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. His followers seem to make excuses for him. Yeah. So that's the problem, is that whatever that percentage of people are that help get him elected, you say to them, oh, he called Armenia Albania. They'll say, I love that. That's fantastic. He can call whatever he wants.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the problem. That's the problem. It feels like we see that the Kings has no pants, but they think, that's funny for them. And he's, by the way, they say things like, I love him because he says what's on his mind. As a matter of fact, again, another joke I did during my Netflix special, I said people would say, I love him because he says what's on his mind. I love him because he's, and then I said, I went to my mom, Iranian mom. She goes, I love him because he's on his mind. I go, oh, my mom fell for it.
Yeah.
He's a carnival barker. He's a salesman.
Yeah.
And he sells himself as the guy who's going to solve all these problems, and he's got no solutions. You understand? There's no solutions. That's the problem. And so even like it's almost like he's Teflon. Like we'll make fun of him, but we all laugh. But the people that should wake up don't laugh.
The pushback is starting. There's cracks in the armor. Just in the last 24 hours, we've learned that ABC, as a network, is pushing back hard on this so-called audit of their affiliate stations. There's a headline right there. And, who would have thought we'd have a president that would take on Disney, for God's sakes? But ABC is pushing back, and good for them. ABC, the network of Kimmel. At first, they had to pay out because of something George Stephanopoulos did or said, and they seemingly bent the knee. But it seems to me they've had enough, and I think a lot of folks have had enough. What do you think about do you see pushback happening? And your colleagues that are out there on tour, how are they responding? How are you responding to this environment?
First of all, your lips to God's ears, because I was, at the beginning when the lawyers would settle with him, when he wouldn't let the lawyers come into the government offices, or unless all these big firms were, bending their knee. And then all of these universities, I'm going, how are these universities backing down to these hundreds of millions? These universities have so much money. And so it fell on the shore of satirists to make fun of him and to keep showing him. Like, that's one of the things, Frank, that I'm really upset about. The fact that Colbert is no longer on. I used to get my news from him because the news was so depressing, because every time you turn it on, something new and something crazy. Oh, it's going to be the John F. Kennedy Trump Center. And thank God he lost that. But it just got crazier and crazier. We're going to go attack Greenland. I feel like he would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I got an idea. And they'd be like, go ahead, sir, we're writing it down. Why don't we blow up the moon? Sir, that's amazing. What a great idea, sir. I feel like that's the kind of stuff that happens over there. And then Colbert would take that, he would feed it to me in a funny way. So now I have Jon Stewart to watch once a week, and I can't wait for John Oliver to be back. So these guys make it so that the news is palatable. Right. Meanwhile, every time I read the news, I'm like scrolling through the article. Please give me an article that's not depressing. Now you go back to what the comedians are doing. I'll tell you, Frank, Trump won. I was very critical. A lot of jokes I had about Trump, like in the lead up to the election. And, anybody who watches my Netflix special is called Immigrant, because it was such an anti-immigrant sentiment that I thought it was important to show that immigrants, built this country and we continue to give to this country. So Trump won, I went hard. And then I'll tell you what, once he lost in 2020, I was doing a show in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was making fun of the insurrectionists. And I had a couple jokes about it. And as I'm doing the joke, right there in the front seat, there's a husband and wife, and the husband is starting to turn red. And the wife keeps looking at her husband, and then she's looking at me like, please stop talking about the insurrectionists. And I was like, this kind of insurrection. The guy was clearly on the side of the insurrection. And once I came off stage, I go, you know what? Now that Trump is gone, I'm not going to give it oxygen anymore. Like, that's just dividing the audience. Right. And he's done. Then, of course, the bastard comes back. So I'm like, Jesus, he won't. It's like a cockroach. He's like a cockroach. He just keeps coming back. So now what do you do? What you're back on tour, right? Yeah, I'm on tour. And
what do you do with this?
So you know what, Frank? I've decided, because you said just him and the things he says are already comedy. So all I got to do is report it. Like I was doing a joke about like in June when Iran, Israel, and the U.S. had their pre-war. Um, there was a video he posted on his stupid social media page of B-2 bombers flying because we sent B-2 bombers, as you know, to hit the nuclear sites in Iran. So he had a video of B-2 bombers flying to the song bomb 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 Iran bomb bomb bomb. So that was, for me, there was an easy obvious joke, which was to say, how inappropriate is that? Like, he's the craziest leader of them all. I said that would be like if after Truman bombed Japan, he made the announcement, today we bombed Japan. Everybody was kung fu fighting, So obviously that was like, a joke there. And then I also said, like, after George W. Bush bombed Iraq, that would be like he said, today we bombed Iraq. Dinga 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 dinga. And then I look at the audience and go, that's Indian, close enough. Dinga 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 dinga. So that's where I have some fun with it. However, the other way I have fun with it is to not go specifically at him, but at his policies and those with him. So, for example, I'll say, ICE is deporting everybody. I go, even Trump supporters are deporting. I said, there's a Lebanese guy in Houston. He opened up Trump burgers. They showed up and deported him. I said, you know how shocked he was when they showed up at his restaurant? He's like, oh, you're here to support? They're like, no, we're here to deport. And then I go, there was an Iranian couple in LA, and they showed up, they took the wife. And then afterwards, the news guy was interviewing the husband. He goes, what do you think of Trump now? He goes, I like him even more. I've been trying to get rid of her for 20 years. He made my home great again. So all of that stuff is critical of ICE without saying Trump. If you're a Trump supporter, because listen, I've noticed something else, Frank. Trump supporters tend to be pretty dumb. So if you hit their policies without saying his name, they'll laugh. Once you say his name, they go, "Come on now, I love him," and they'll get they get offended. It's like you're I want to say, I'm not making fun of your grandmother. I'm making fun of the leader, which is what we're supposed to do in America.
Right.
And the time before when I encountered was when we first went to war with Iraq. I would do jokes about Bush and the administration. And there was a couple times where somebody in the audience was like, you can't make fun of our commander in chief. I was like, that's the whole, I go, listen, we're saying we want to bring democracy to Iraq. And you're telling me I can't talk about my leader? I go, that's the whole point of America, is that we should be making fun of our leader.
Yeah.
They're a little dumb.
That is a crucial point. If for those who say you can't be doing this, I would say, do you know what you're sounding a lot like? You're sounding a lot like the Ayatollah. Mm-hmm. There are nations in the world where you literally could be imprisoned for making fun of the leader, and that's where you think we are right now. I had an extended family member was visiting a couple of years back. And I, was just sitting in the family room, and I had Colbert on, and she said something very interesting. She said, I can't watch him. I can't watch him, very much as if someone had instilled a chip in her. She's MAGA. Mm-hmm. And as if someone said, the following people cannot be watched. And so it's very serious at the point where Americans feel like they've been told the following shows are off limits. The following comedians are off limits. It's quite serious, and I wonder what your audience is. You're hitting the road, and I want to talk about where you're going so folks can see you in person. But who's in your audience? What are your demographics?
Well, Frank, first I want to talk about something you just said, which is, again, I think we are so divided in the media we watch and see that if I love Colbert, I love Jon Stewart. So if I send a clip to somebody who's MAGA and he's saying something very funny, John Oliver, and to me it's brilliant because to me, listen, comedy's first job is to make you laugh. But if it makes you laugh and think, like George Carlin or even Richard Pryor, some of those guys, that to me is the gold. Like, that's the highest standard. So I'll see a clip that I think is great and brilliant, and I'll send it to some of these guys who tend to be right-leaning. and they'll say, "Oh, that was funny, but his take on everything is, very biased." And I'm going, "Well, funny is funny. If you make fun of Obama during the correspondence dinner and it's funny, I'm going to laugh. I'm not going to say, 'How dare you make fun of my leader,' which is what they say basically."
Yeah.
Now, on the road, I'll tell you, it's interesting because my crowds tend to have. Sorry, that's my dog. I don't know if you can hear her.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
My crowds tend to have, like 50% Middle Eastern, 50% non-Middle Eastern. So it's a little bit of both. And the truth is, Frank, during this Iran war, a lot of Iranians have become more and more conservative, as well as, you have some Middle Easterners that are very conservative. Like, again, a joke I used to do was that a lot of them say, once I'm here, it's fine. Like I said, this is true. I was in a Uber with this Armenian guy, and he was like, "Trump, very good politic, very good politic, very good." I go, "He doesn't want immigrants to come." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm here already. Good politics for me, bad politics for my cousin." So you have a lot of that. You have a lot of immigrants who have, I think, because immigrants come from dictatorships, so a lot of them are very conservative, and especially with this recent war with Iran. A lot of Iranians fell for the carnival barker because he promised them that he's going to do a regime change and we can all go back to Iran. And what he did was he overpromised and underdelivered, like everything else that he does. So at a certain point, I have friends of mine that were very, very smart, and they would say, "Listen, the fact that he was able to get rid of Khamenei," they go, "that's all I need." They go, "The rest, I don't care." And I go, "Wait a minute." I go, "So he got rid of Khamenei, but then what's day 2? What's day 3? How many innocent Iranians is he going to kill? And at what point will the regime?" I said, "The only way you can have regime change is if you put boots on the ground, which the American population doesn't want. And that's going to be a very dirty, messy war. You can't even talk logic to them. You go, we lost Vietnam because we stayed there and they were defending their own country. Iraq turned into a mess when, Al Qaeda in Iraq and ISIS in Iraq, all that stuff, or Afghanistan. For 20 years, we just handed it right back to the Taliban. So I go,
the way I look at this, and it's interesting that Iranian Americans may be looking at it quite differently, but this was an extremely ill-planned, if planned at all, attack. There was no thought given to the Strait of Hormuz being closed, which was an obvious consequence. No thought given to, are we ready to prop up a new regime? Who are they? Has the CIA done their job on this? Oh, I'm sorry, we seemingly killed everyone that we had in mind. Just a ridiculous situation, and we end up right back where we started, and even worse because we're going to give them billions of their own money, frozen assets back. I'll believe it when I see it if that money's used for humanitarian purposes. So I just don't get it. But in the Iranian American community, which you are a part of, do you see people being able to laugh still?
Yeah, they laugh. And again, if you stay away from his name, they will laugh with you. And the problem with the Iranian American community is, the Iranian community around the world, is that we've watched this oppressive government now for almost 50 years, imprison, kill, and maim, and you name it, they've done it. They are horrible, horrible people. And so the Iranian Americans who thought that we're on the road towards freedom thought that originally they were like, "Oh, well, he's the only president that's had the guts to do it." And you go, okay, listen, I don't know if he's the president that he had guts to do anything. He's the president who fell for Bibi telling him that they're this close to a nuclear weapon. Bibi's been saying they're this close to a nuclear weapon for 20 years. He had that silly image at the United Nations that looked like a Wile E. Coyote bomb with the thing. Yeah. I mean, he's been saying this for a long time. And I'm not saying that they're, an innocuous force. They are definitely a dangerous force. And I would say if they can go, that would be great. But then the question becomes how. And so your point, like day 1, just drop a bunch of bombs. Then what's day 2 and day 3? And like you said, isn't there someone in that room that tells them, hey, here's the 5 things that could happen. Strait of Hormuz, they're like cockroaches, they won't leave. They are not Venezuela. You can't go in and just take the guy out. Even if you take the guy out, they have a whole structure set up. And
Yeah.
by the way, what else can they do? They can start sending missiles to all of our allies around the area. So I don't know, Frank. I don't know what happens in that room. The only thing I heard was that I guess JD Vance kind of said, "Hey, I oppose this." But even then, they're like, "I oppose this, but whatever you want to do, let's do it."
Yeah, and he's so part of this is surround. We're right back to what we started talking about, which was this ego and the stroking, and that takes the form of surrounding yourself with people who are just going to nod their head yes. Hegseth, for example, and yeah, anybody who tries to push back gets on his shit list. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
and
Rubio.
JD Vance may be there right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to be the fall guy on this,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
set him up. He set him
But
up.
listen, going back to comedy, I mean, you can't write it. The images of JD Vance at that at the negotiations where everyone's like saying hello and kissing each other. He's just standing there like picking his nose. I was just watching Jon Stewart. He did a great job of it because he literally was picking his nose. And Stewart showed that image. And listen, for you and me, that's hilarious. For these followers and the cult followers, they don't see it. They just go, whatever. He's great. He's doing it. By the way, you don't send real estate guys to negotiate with diplomats. And I've heard it be pointed out that the Obama deal took, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. These guys are trying to, like, in 2 months get there. And by the way, he criticized Obama for giving them a few $1 billion and for, worst deal ever, worst deal. His deal is the same deal, but worse.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. And to your point, you've screwed up the economy. You know what, Frank? I'll tell you what, during this whole war, because I knew the news was going to be bad every day, I would just go check my stock app on my phone to see if it went up or down. And of course, if it went up, I was like, okay, the war's almost over. Oil is going to go down. And then obviously it went down. I was like, okay, we're going to, the conflict continues. And I think he kind of was looking at the war the same way, because he would be giving speeches. He's like, stock market's up. They don't care. Like that's the only thing he cared about. Yeah. And then the most recent thing when he was talking about why the war should end, he was saying, well, the economy, can't handle it. And, obviously enough Republican members of Congress got to him, and probably billionaires got to him and said, hey, man, let's just find a way out of this, because it's going downhill. You're gonna have a bloodbath come midterms. So I don't know, Frank. I really don't.
Yeah. I know this. I know that we better be able to continue to not only laugh, but laugh at ourselves, and importantly, laugh at our leaders. And you continue to play a role in that. And I think even I'm not going to compel you to talk about comedians that are more on the right politically, but I watch almost everybody until I can't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. But I watch almost everybody. I want to see what the other side is thinking, and what some of the stuff I see on so-called far right or bro comics is they're beginning to poke fun at themselves, and they're beginning to poke fun at Trump.
Well, Frank, here's the thing. Some people that were on the right, their complaint was that there's cancel culture. They're canceling me. I can't say a lot of the things I want to say. And my response to them was, hey, man, I think that you're just caught up in the old days. Like, maybe you're just lazy. You don't want to write new stuff. Because the fact is, we evolve as a society. So even my kids now, who are teenagers, I would say certain things and they would tell me, hey, that's outdated. You can't use that term. You shouldn't use that term. And rather than turning around and being like, now you guys are, back in my day, you could make, I just would think, okay, if I want to be extinct in the comedy world, I'll just stick to the words I used to use and the jokes I used to do. But if I want to evolve, I have to listen to these people and evolve. And so we have continued to evolve, and I think it was laziness. And then the interesting thing is, now that they are canceling comedians for saying what they're saying. It's come full circle, and they're actually canceling comedians for, I mean, the reason Colbert got canceled because he had the balls to make fun of his own network for giving a bribe to Trump because they wanted that deal to go through.
Yeah.
And then the excuse of, oh yeah, you weren't making enough money. Well, the fact is, no TV show or network is making enough money. So if that's what we're going to do, let's cancel all the shows.
Right.
And unfortunately, he was the fall guy on this.
Yeah. Where's the future going with comedy? You mentioned Colbert. Are we headed toward non-corporate comedy? Well, by that I mean off cable. You gotta find it streaming. What is it too sensitive for the big cable networks to touch anymore?
I would say, listen, when you go to live clubs, you're going to see a lot of people who are very funny, who you don't even know about, and they are talking politics, they're saying whatever they want. And then even on like TikTok and some of these other apps, there are young comics who do great political material. I'll give you a few names. Mish Patel. There is Mo Amer. There is
Houston guy, Mo Amer.
Mo is great. There's Sammy Obeid. There's I mean, you just when you flick through, you'll see some people doing some great comedy, and sometimes I discover people, who that's it. Like if you go on there and you watch a few of these guys, obviously it starts feeding you things like that. So there's a lot of people out there doing some great political comedy. And you were saying, the comedians on the right. The unfortunate thing about the comedians on the right is I've seen some of those guys, try to be funny, but it comes across as kind of, bullying or not as smart. Not to say that people on the left are smarter than the people on the right.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you're just trying to now denounce or bully other communities. Like one of the most important things to comedy is to be self-deprecating. So if I go up on stage and make fun of myself, now if I do jokes about other people in the room, I go, hey, we're all laughing. I'm not here to bully any community. Whereas I've seen guys on the right, they're not self-deprecating. They just get out there and they go, hey, what about Nancy Pelosi? And what about whatever, whatever, and Bernie Sanders and all that stuff. It's just not funny.
No, I agree. I had, we all have our internal filters. I turned somebody on Netflix. It's out recently. And I was, 20, 30 minutes in and I was like, that's enough for me. It's all attack. It's all attack. It's borderline racist and
exactly.
And misogynist.
Listen, even people that you might not expect to have political funny material because they're not political. Bill Burr had a great special called The Drop Dead Years, which was great because it was like, as you get older, men just start dropping dead. And he had some great political material in there. Yeah. And I go, wow, I didn't expect Bill to have that, but he did. And so as long as it's funny, I'm on board. Like he did a joke years ago, I think, where it was kind of a joke that started with Michelle Obama and then made a turn. And I'm a big fan of Michelle Obama. So when he first started, I was like, kind of holding myself back, going like, where's he going with this? And the way he brought it around, I go, oh my God, that was brilliant. So you see that a lot more from. Yeah,
it takes like you said, it takes a brain and creativity to do it right. And I think we're seeing less of that in some circumstances. And then it's a sad state of affairs when, whether it's your favorite musician or comedian, that we're now so polarized and politicized that if somebody shows up, that we can't look at pure talent anymore. So for example, people blew an absolute gasket, and I was shocked. One of the most talented singers out there in terms of just power of voice, I'm talking about musicianship, is probably Carrie Underwood, who showed up at the inauguration and sang the national anthem.
Yeah.
People just their heads exploded. And I also thought, well, that's an interesting career move. But she's country. She's country. She knows her audience. She's a very smart businesswoman. And that was her decision. It's the national anthem. Oh, okay. And then, more recently, Nate Bargatze, who I think is talented. He shows up at the cage fight at the White House, and people are like, "Oh my God!" I'm not weighing in on this so much as saying I'm saddened by this is where we are. That every move you make has to be. You have to consider whether I've pissed off half of the audience or not. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, I go through that all the time. Like, I feel like social media, especially, is very divided. So if you say one thing, they'll criticize you. If you say another thing, if you don't say anything, they'll criticize you. I mean, so that's why whenever I do social media, I just go, here's my point of view, and that's what it is. And then I let them argue with each other. I try not to get involved. And then the funny thing is, then you'll get like a text from your friend going like, "I'm so sorry what they're saying about you." And I'm like, "Who's saying what? I'm trying to ignore this." So yeah, this happens on all sides. I mean, how much has Bruce Springsteen, how much flack has he gotten for the stand he takes? And the truth is, Frank, I'd be lying if I didn't say it's heartbreaking when you see someone you are a fan of, kind of supporting this guy, because you go, what are you doing? But to your point, I mean, listen, if your fan base is that fan base, then,
I mean, if you want to limit yourself that way, hey, go for it. I don't know if Nate Bargatze was even thinking that this is screwing me over, but I don't know. Bruce Springsteen, we all love to be at the place in our careers where you don't give a shit anymore about because Bruce, I'm a big Bruce fan. Bruce sold his catalog for what, $900 million to Sony. So he's not sitting there going, and I don't think he ever did, but he's not sitting there going, "Oh, I might upset some people if I have a resistance tour of some kind."
It's funny because I have a friend of mine who was saying, "Hey, you should not do politics." I go, "Well, then, what am I doing over here? Like, I want to talk about it. I go, listen, I can't help myself. And even if I lose some members of my audience, I can't. And by the way, I probably don't want those people.
Right.
Now I'm, they're getting offended. I'm being a little careful what I say. Listen, I want to say what I want to say. I think that once you start appealing to everybody, you're just a jukebox. You're taking requests. You're a DJ, whatever you want. You're a DJ at a wedding, by the way. Right. So I think like as a matter of fact, I said, if you're getting criticized, that's a good thing, because that means that you've gone beyond your audience, and now you got other people that didn't know you. Now they know you.
That's right.
And then we were talking about like right and left comedy. A little while ago, I remember somebody was trying to do a daily show from the left. I'm sorry, from the right. Daily show from the right. And they wanted me to audition for it. And they sent me one of the sketches that they'd written. And Frank, it was just like you said, it was just like offensive. So the sketch they had was that that they're trying to rebuild the Twin Towers. And they're having 3 architects come in to pitch ideas. And there's one guy, there's another guy, then there's a Middle Easterner. And he comes in and says, "Yeah, I think we build a tall building and we put a target on it." And they go, "Why would you put a target on it?" Because I go, "Because it's appealing. It's like, says, come here, come here." And I go, "This is just a racist sketch. What are you guys doing?" And that was kind of the flavor of the show. Thank God it didn't do much. But again, it's like, you can't just because it's, you got to be funny. You got to be funny.
At the end of the day, if the marketplace will take care of itself, and if you're not funny, you're not selling tickets. That's the bottom line. Yeah. Hey, look, you went through some things health-wise recently, and we were kind of worried about you. I'm glad to hear you're back on the road. What can you share with us? What happened?
It was a surprise, and the one thing is, I say, life just throws you these curveballs, and I was on a treadmill, an elliptical at the gym, and I had a seizure. and I've never had a seizure like that. And then the next thing I know, I wake up in an ambulance, and the next thing I know, my wife takes me to the hospital, and I had to have brain surgery, which again was just, where'd that come from? I'm a very healthy person. I don't smoke. I drink a little bit. I love to drink a little bit more than a little bit, but still, have a few drinks here and there. Exercise a lot.
All right, come on, Maz. Tell us how much. Come on.
I'm an alcoholic. No.
I knew it.
What's funny is afterwards, my friend was like, this happened at the gym. I'm never going to the gym again.
That's why I don't go.
Exactly. So anyway, long story short, I had to have the surgery, and then I've been healing slowly. It takes a long time. Anyone who's had any kind of surgery that knows it takes a long time. And so I love what I do. And so a few months ago, by the way, sitting at home is boring. And like my days were just blending in. Like every day my family would come home. I'm like, is it Saturday today? Every day felt like a Saturday. Yeah. And then finally I go, okay. And my wife is very supportive. I go, listen, I'm going to try and get up on stage. And I'll be honest with you, the first time on stage, I was kind of nervous because I wanted to talk about it. But I was like, how do I talk about it? And actually, Frank, I did an interesting joke. So I have a joke where I say I was at my friend's dad's funeral. He was in his 90s. And at the funeral, all these ladies in their 80s were coming up to me and going, Maz, you are my favorite comedian. And I thought, oh, shit, my fan base is dying. That's the joke. So off of that, the first time I talked about the brain surgery, I was like, I did that joke. And then I said, speaking of dying, I almost died last year. And then the audience was like, whoa, what's that all about? So I realized you can't hit an audience like that. What you got to do is you got to do 10 to 15 minutes of, material, nothing to do with this brain surgery. And then eventually you can come back and go, I had a health scare last year. And then they'll go with you, especially if you say, hey, I'm okay now. So yeah, I started doing local shows, where you do like 20 minutes, and I started building it. And then more recently, I started doing headlining shows locally in LA, where I would have to do 45 minutes. And then just this past week, I went to Phoenix. And then this coming weekend, I'm going to Fort Lauderdale. So I'm basically back on the road, which is what I love doing. And, when you love what you do, you do it. And so that's my hope, is to keep going.
We're glad you're back out there, and I encourage all our viewers to go see him. You've got your own website where they can find your schedule, right, Maz?
Yeah, mazjobrani.com.
mazjobrani.com. I'm going to try and see you out there somewhere. And look, if you're not for followers and viewers who say, yeah, I'm not really into the comic thing, take some time and explore it, because it's like being an outstanding writer. The wordsmithing, the crafting, where do I put the comma? Is that word correct or not? As Maz just said, the timing of when to insert something that sounds serious and then how to deliver it. It is an art form, and I've come to appreciate it, and even more in this time of real troubles in our country. Let's keep laughing at ourselves, each other, and yes, at our leaders. Maz, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Frank. And here's to a free and democratic America.
Amen. As we approach our 250th anniversary. Thanks, Maz. We'll see you out there on the road.
Thank you, Frank. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So look, folks, a little something different today. Maz Jobrani, check him out. If you want to explore some of the stuff, you can certainly find his specials on Netflix. He's actually had some sitcoms and TV shows over the years, and now he's back on the road. And you'll also enjoy, if you go see him, you'll enjoy the crowd. I know we're not supposed to talk about DEI, but I've been in the crowd with Maz. It is a great mixed America crowd. You'll have a good time with good people. I will see you next time on the Frank Figliuzzi Show.